is particularly meaningful for this project because it's not just about the veterans, but it's about lifting up the community around it. I would like to ask one of the representatives from the GI Forum to come up because I have a couple questions that I'd like to get on the record from y'all. Point of order.
Mr. Velia, just thank you very much. Appreciate you. Go ahead.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Can you tell me how many of these particular types of facilities the GI Forum operates today?
We have several. We have in every major city in Texas. We are not outside of Texas yet. Our parent company is the American GI Forum. They created us. They were 1946, World War II. We came afterwards in 1972, but we carry on many of their same mission sets. That's why we picked this particular community, because we are Hispanics, born and raised in Panama, in a town smaller than that community they're in. Paul Bernal, born in San Antonio. Father came directly from Mexico. So we are all a family of Hispanics and minorities. If you look at my group back here, it's an eclectic mix of minorities, minority leaders, minority community members that live here in Fort Worth. We are not big developers. We're not here to make money. In fact, we are a nonprofit organization. All the money that we create goes right back into the community, goes back into the programs to support veterans. We are here just for the interest of serving veterans.
And so can you expand a little on how this housing operates and who will live there, the different segments of veterans that have the availability to utilize those services?
So there was something that was brought up about the community that we have in San Antonio. We do have a homeless facility there in San Antonio. We do provide housing for veterans that are homeless. We do have mental health facilities there. That's not what we're doing here. What we're doing here is a transitional housing for veterans that are transitioning from the service. And I had a presentation here to talk about, but I'll just tell you that,
Actually, I don't mind going through the presentation. That would be very helpful.
Can I do that? Yes, let me start. First of all, thank you very much for having me here. I'm the CEO of the American GI Forum. I'm Serge Dickerson. I am a veteran. Spent the better part of 30 years in the Army, multiple combat tours. I do have PTSD. I am 100% disabled. And again, I commiserate with this community because I come from a community like this. Our purpose for the church location is to establish a transitioning housing for veterans that are transitioning. Why is that important to all of you? Well, it's because...
Just a second, Adrian, do you have something to say? Otherwise, you can leave the chamber or you can sit down and give him the respect that we give you every single Tuesday. No, you may sit. Just don't intimidate a speaker. Thank you.
You say that's intimidation?
You can sit or you can leave.
I'm gonna stand in the back. How about that?
Excuse us, sorry.
No problem. As you may know, Fort Worth lies in a crossroads of several large military installations. Last year, 17% of those that transitioned out of the military transitioned to Texas. That's 10,400 veterans. Fort Worth, less than 150 miles from here, is the largest military installation in the world. And it transitions more veterans than all the other installations put together. So they're coming to Fort Worth. That's why, for the first time, Fort Worth has the distinction of having more veterans than Dallas. They're coming here, one way or the other. The question here is, how are they coming here? Are they coming here with their benefits? Are they coming here with the medical they need, the housing that they need, the employment opportunities that they need? Because when they leave the service, they are literally homeless. They have no place to live, they have no job, and they come to your communities looking for that. And they're ill prepared for that in many cases, okay? There's a real opportunity here for us to set the conditions for success, to get them employment, get them housed for a brief period of time. That housing may last, 6 months to a year, and then we move them to permanent housing. We have a similar facility in San Antonio, okay? It does more than what we're planning to do here, but It's been visited by President Obama, the HUD Secretary, Ben Carson's been down there, and just recently we had Secretary Walsh at our facility, and has stated that our facility is a national standard for the United States for veteran treatment. I like to emphasize that we are not opening a shelter. I've heard that several times. That's incorrect, okay? What we're opening here is a transition center for veterans, a place where they can be, so when they come into Fort Worth, they come in the right way, with their medical, with a place to live, and with a job so that they can be providers to their families, and so they can be responsible members of the community. Not be on the unemployment line, not be in shelters, not be a burden to the community, but to be a positive influence. And you've seen many of the veterans here that have become positive influences because they've been helped, they've received that help. So I ask that you support our effort. Again, we're not here for the money. I retired from the Army many years ago. I'm here to help veterans. They're here to help veterans. And I think the community's here to help veterans. I think everybody said that. So let's help them. You know, what we're hearing all the time is, not in my backyard. Yeah, well, maybe they need to live in the, near the VA hospital. How many 24-year-olds do you know that want to live next to the VA hospital? I don't. And I'm almost 60. Okay? They want to live normal lives in normal communities. They don't want to live next to a hospital. They're not all sick, they're not all on drugs, they don't all have PTSD, and they're not all dangerous. And I can tell you that in our facility in San Antonio, where we do have homeless veterans, there's never been an incident. I'm going to knock on wood. Okay? So that crime rate you're talking about, it's not with our facility. Okay? And you can research that. You can call the police department down there and you can ask them.
Thank you. Elizabeth, go ahead, please. Thank you.
Unfair advantage.
I asked the question. I'm the chair of the meeting. Thank you very much, Mr. Snow. Go ahead, Elizabeth. Please, Mr. Snow.
Madam Mayor.
No, no one can speak from the audience. No one can speak from the audience. I will shut the meeting down. No one may speak from the audience. Elizabeth Beck, you're on the floor.
Shut it down.
Is that what you really want? You can remove. He's out. I want Ricardo out. He's out. Elizabeth Beck, you have the floor.
Unfair advantage.
Out. Manuel, you're out too. I can't conduct a meeting like this.
Unfair advantage.
I'm there. I'm chairing the meeting. I want you to leave the chamber. You need to leave the
They just
chamber.
told you they all lied to
Leave the
them.
chamber.
The community spoke.
Manuel, please
You're
leave.
ignoring them.
Thank you for leaving. Elizabeth, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. I also want to speak to, thank you for giving us a little more context on how the housing will operate, and I apologize for the disruption in the chamber. Fort Worth is home to some 42,000 veterans. I happen to be one of those. I happen to be one of those that transitioned off of, out of the service and looked for a place. So, Mr. Snow, goodbye. Let me just say this for just a second, because there are children in the audience that I'm so proud of for being here tonight. I see a beautiful young woman on the front row. I'm trying to listen to a case I don't know much about. And to the residents that are here, I can hear your frustration in your voices, and I'm trying to learn. As your mayor, that is my job. So when I chair a meeting and I ask a gentleman who knows the most about this project to speak for more than 3 minutes, as your mayor, that is my prerogative. We cannot conduct city council meetings when they get out of hand. I apologize when I have to raise my voice, but that is my job in this chamber. There are so many of you sitting here today I've never had the pleasure of listening to in meeting. I am trying to listen through this meeting. So if you can just offer me a certain level of patience as Councilmember Beck navigates this situation, I will have additional questions. This case has not been voted yet. I'm very sorry that Mr. Avidia had to leave, but candidly, his outburst is not helping the situation at all. So I'm going to leave it there and turn it back to Councilmember Beck. This is how we have to conduct the work of City Hall tonight. We're going to be here till probably 11 or midnight at this point with these other zoning cases. Okay? So thank you for your patience. Now I'm going to turn back to Councilmember Beck, and we're going to continue to deliberate on this meeting.
Please shut that door. He can leave. He's not helping. Councilmember Beck.
Thank you. So, as I was saying, Fort Worth is home to about 42,000 veterans, and we learned this evening about those transitioning off of military service. Transitioning out of military service doesn't mean that you did something wrong or that there's something wrong with you. And let me be very clear to all the veterans in this room tonight, to those that will listen to this recording at some later date, there is nothing wrong with you if you suffer from PTSD. And so you have heard that rhetoric here in this chamber tonight, and I want you to know that because you struggle does not make you wrong. It makes you proud and strong to be in this community. Thank you. It's rare that I don't know where to begin on something, and I don't know where to begin on this particular situation because what you saw in this chamber tonight, the outbursts by Mr. Avidia are indicative of the way that him and his group operate within the community. I have personally experienced it. Fernando Peralta has personally experienced it. And just to be clear, my office is on the 3rd floor and I've never met anyone underground. I have personally tried to be the conduit for information on zoning changes in and around the Hemp Hill corridor. And typically when a situation like this arises, I would continue the case and I would say, let's give the opportunity to have a little more dialogue about this particular project. I don't think that that will be particularly helpful here because what I heard tonight was that 300 signatures were signed before you even heard a presentation. And so how can you have an informed decision about a project if you haven't had the opportunity to learn about that particular project? Now, as to notice and who was told when and what, I can tell you that I met with members of the GI Forum very early on. They engaged with the neighborhood. I was made aware of the open house last Friday. I don't remember how far in advance, but it was not a day or two. It was known. It is the tactic of the former Rosemont neighborhood president who was escorted out of this meeting tonight. And it is a continued tactic that we have seen by Mr. Avidia and his group of supporters to come to meetings, to shout over the presenters, to disrupt, to dismay, and to provide disinformation to the community. And so what I would say to the members here tonight that are concerned about this project, I think we all hear you on this dais. I can tell you as one of those veterans that came out of the service and needed some place to stay. I was fortunate that I had a family support system that could provide that for me, but not everybody is so fortunate. And I will tell you today, if I were to transition out of the service, both of my parents are gone, I would probably need some sort of assistance. And so we want to make sure that we are being a compassionate and caring community. I don't think that postponing this particular case will be fruitful. I think we will see more of what we saw this evening. I think that the community will be disrupted and that required information will not be disseminated in a way that is productive. And so with that, I move to approve enthusiastically this particular project. And thank you for bringing it to Fort Worth. Thank you for being thoughtful about the community around it and where it would be best suited. And I look forward to working with you as you build this. We are a military community here in Fort Worth, and we do strive to put our money where our mouth is and walk that walk. And so you have my commitment to walk that walk with you.
Thank you.
Got a motion and a second. Before we vote, I just want to say this. There was a lot of very clear concern from our neighbors in Rosemont about particular crime, code violations, a lack of response from the city, engagement, transparency. And that to me is outside of the consideration of this project, and your city needs to be better. And I promise you, I'm going to dig in to understand how I can both assist Councilmember Beck and whoever is the future council member for District 11 immediately. because you have a beautiful neighborhood full of amazing families that deserves our attention. It's the reason why the Neighborhood Improvement Initiative mattered for Rosemont, but our work is absolutely not done yet. And I'll put myself in your shoes. I've lived just like that before. And it's not acceptable that the city of Fort Worth hasn't done our part. And you have my promise as your mayor. We will be better moving forward. And all you have is my words right now, and next will just have to be action. You'll have to be patient with us as we transition in these council member districts. But I know there's immense interest both on behalf of Councilmember Beck and the future council member for District 11. Thank you so much for coming this evening and expressing your concerns about this case. I unfortunately think there has been so much misinformation that is incorrect about what we're going to achieve with veteran housing in the city of Fort Worth. And I can just go on the record, I live in Ridgely North, and I would welcome you to come to Ridgely North into my neighborhood and live near my family. Because when I look at this petition and I see words like not safe for kids, those are not the veterans that I know in this community. And with that, please vote, council.
I know that the vote is taken, but I should have said this when I spoke, and I want to make sure that we put that on the record. What you saw tonight was democracy in action. Those of you that have your signs that you have made, that you have come down to petition on behalf of your neighborhood, either for or against this project, was democracy in action. You would not be afforded that ability but for those veterans that will live in that particular facility. And so while it might be painful for you today, know that the folks that are going to live there are the people who fought and put their lives on the line so that you could come into this chamber today and be part of this government.
Motion carries.
Next item is ZC-20